May I request President Mr. N.G. Khaitan to welcome Mr. Mirza with a bouquet of flowers. Ladies and gentlemen, we would be starting this talk on the Awadhi influence on West Bengal with the welcome address by Mr. N.G. Khaitan, President of the Chamber.
Good afternoon to you all. Before I welcome Shah Mirza ji, I would like to thank Ronuka ji because this is for the first time in the history of this chamber that we will be having a talk on the Mughal Empire. And I asked my Secretary General, would there be an interest of people to know about it and what was the Mughal Empire, and Wajid Ali Shah came to Calcutta. He said there will be a tremendous interest of people. And then I can see His Excellency Mr. Andrew Fleming is here, Imran Jaki Saab is here, a lot of people from different universities. They have not come, but they had confirmed their attendance. They are there. So Therkan and Venkaji. His name starts with Shansha. So, so you know, all the Mughal emperors were called Shansha. When I was in school, my most interesting subject was Mughal Empire. I mean, those days, the history subject were not so much about the British Empire. When I was in school in 50s and early 60s, the most important part of the history which we were told was basically Mughal Empire. And it was a very fascinating empire for 300 years. About 10 or 12 years back, I was invited by the government of Uzbekistan to deliver a lecture there. I did not know much about it, Uzbekistan. I only thought that Tashkent was a city where our late Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri had gone and had a meeting with the President of Russia in relation to the peace accord to be signed with the Pakistan. But when I went to Uzbekistan, I was asked that you must go to Samarkand for a day's trip. So I said, what would there in Samarkand? He said, we'll take you in the morning and bring you back because you happen to come from a country which was ruled by Mughal Empire. And Babur, who invaded India in 1500s, he happened to be the great grandson of Timur. And it is in Samarkand that we had the grave of Timur. Though there was a lot of country when our film actor, what's his name, who married to Kareena Kapoor, what's his name, Saif Ali Khan, he named his son as Timur because there was a lot of controversy on that you are naming your son in the name of a person who invaded, a great grandson who invaded India, but it was never Timur who invaded India. Babur used to be the from paternal side he was from Timur, and from maternal side he was from Genghis Khan. And what is also fascinating that when Wajid Ali Shah came to Calcutta, he not only brought the cuisine of Awadh but the culture of Awadh also. And as we know that we had this problem of those days of mutton, and so a new recipe was created with biryani with that aloo, potato, because that was the staple food. So it has been a very interesting journey that today we have Shahnshah ji. I will not call you Mirza, I'll call you Shahnshah since you happen to be he also happens to be the great grandson of Wajid Ali Shah. So Babur had used to be great grandson, and he also happens to be the great so it is the job of Renuka ji basically to introduce Shahnshah, and I think people are here to listen to him, then to me. So over to you, Renuka ji.
Sir, you speak so well, and you know so much about history. Please continue.
Mr. Mirza, Mr. Khaitan, members of the committee and Bharat Chamber Ladies Forum friends and guests. Namaste, good evening, and a very warm welcome to our event today. I consider it to be a pleasure and privilege to introduce our chief in guest today, Mr. Shahnshah Mirza, the great-great-grandson of Nawab Wajid Ali Shah, the last ruler of Awadh. The theme of his talk today is aptly the Awadhi influence on West Bengal. In the professional sphere, Mr. Mirza is a senior officer in the Indian Revenue Services. He has the rich experience of serving the Customs and Central Excise departments of the Ministry of Finance, Government of India. Mr. Mirza is a passionate orator and has addressed different platforms across the country on a variety of topics ranging from finance to history and culture. He has also co-authored 3 books entitled Calcutta Built Heritage, Calcutta Dotes, and a commemorative volume on the diplomatic relations between China and India. Needless to say, Mr. Mirza is a heritage enthusiast in his own rights and is closely associated with the Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage, or INTAC. He is also a life member of Purano Kolkata Golpo group, which also known as the PKG group. As a green activist, Mr. Mirza is actively engaged in the conservation of nature and promotion of biodegradable and jute products. Friends, the land of Bengal is a melting pot of cultures, traditions, and rituals, having been ruled by several Hindu and Islamic dynasties before the colonial rule in the 18th century. In the annals of time, however, the Awadhi legacy, be it cuisine, fashion, performing arts, literature, or leisure activities, influenced the people of Bengal to a great extent, which can be seen and experienced even today. Regarded as an unfortunate king, Nawab Wajid Ali Shah was a patron of fine arts who possessed a flair for writing poetry and composing thumris. A secular king, it is said that he had great knowledge on Kathak dance form and enjoyed performing as Krishna in some of the dance recitals held in the royal households. Later, the zamindars and elites of Bengal cherished the new culture introduced by the Nawab and adopted it in their lifestyle. They not only enjoyed the music and dance soirees, but also took part in the leisure activities like kite flying and pigeon games or kabutar bazi introduced during his time. The Nawab must also be acknowledged for setting up a printing press in Mityabruz or for publishing a weekly gazette in Urdu. This added to the literary and journalistic tradition of the city as well. I strongly believe that Nawab Wajid Ali Shah has a lot of contribution in developing the rich cultural heritage of Kolkata or erstwhile Calcutta. With these words, I now request Mr. Mirza to commence today's talk. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and it's over to you, Mr. Mirza. हाँ चले जाइए वहाँ चले जाइए
Hello. Hello. Adab, good evening, namaskar, sat sri akal, and all forms of salutations one can think of. Mr. Khaitan, Mrs. Renuka Shah, all members of Bharat Chamber of Commerce, dear ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to each one of you. And right at the beginning, I would like to thank you for taking out time on a hot and humid Friday afternoon to come and hear about the Awadhi legacy in West Bengal. Thank you so much. It's a great privilege and pleasure for me to be present over here and talk on the Awadhi legacy in West Bengal. Calcutta, which was the second city in the British Raj, was one of the greatest cities in the world. In 1969, Calcutta International Airport was the most busiest airport in Asia. It had more international flights than Bombay, Delhi, Karachi, Bangkok, Tokyo, Tehran. So that will give you an idea of the economic vibrancy of this state. But over the years, due to various reasons, West Bengal started going down, and Calcutta today may not be in the first 4 or 5 cities of this country. But Calcutta was one of the cities which was very dear to British, and they ruled the whole of India from this city till 1911. And then the capital was shifted to Delhi. This was a city which gave refuge to people like Wajid Ali Shah, family of Tipu Sultan, and briefly Bahadur Shah Zafar when he was taken to Rangoon. I'm not a historian, nor do I pretend to be one, but I love history. I find history to be very, very fascinating. And I think it is for people like us to retell the story again and again, because the coming generation, our next generation, should know what our ancestors did and what a glorious country India was and is. But it has to be told, it has to be explained. Unless and until you explain, people will not understand. So our story goes back to 1707. That was a watershed year in Indian history. That was the year in which the last great Mughal emperor, Alamgir Aurangzeb, died. Before his death, the Mughal Empire had become very big. And after his death, the Mughal Empire started disintegrating because of the sheer size. None of the descendants of Aurangzeb had the acumen to rule a country like India. And that led to the downfall of Mughal Empire. But that was the time when rulers in different parts of the country started taking advantage of the situation and started declaring themselves independent. The first to go was Bengal in 1717 under Murshid Quli Khan, followed by Awadh under Sadat Khan in 1722, and then Hyderabad under Asif Jah. So this is the picture of Nawab Sadat Khan Burhanul Mulk. He was a Persian nobleman who came to India in 1708-9 from Khorasan. Khorasan is in northeastern Iran. He was a man who was very ambitious, and he came over here as a part of his political ambition. He was appointed the Subedar of Akbarabad. Akbarabad would be roughly modern-day Agra. And within a short span of time, he proved that he was a worthy administrator. And then he was made the Subedar of Awadh. In those days, there was a group in Awadh which was creating a lot of problem for the Mughal emperor. They were called Sheikh-Zadas. But Sadat Khan was able to suppress all the rebellion. There was a lot of rebellion from the Marathas and the Jats, but he succeeded in suppressing all those rebellion. And in 1722, he laid the foundation of what is now known as the Awadh Empire, the Awadh dynasty. The Awadh dynasty was there for 134 years. It had 10 Nawabs. Geographically speaking, Awadh was a very, very small province compared to modern day Scotland. It was about 24,000 square miles in area, but it was a very, very prosperous state. It lay in the Indo-Gangetic plain, which meant that the land was very fertile. And if the land is fertile, there can be a lot of cultivation. The capital, Lucknow, was considered to be more fairer and prosperous than London and Paris of those days. And even today, those of you who have been to Lucknow can get the impression of what a great city Lucknow was. The 10 Nawabs of Awadh were all important people in their own way, and they all contributed towards the upliftment of the Awadh dynasty. But I think the most powerful, the most exceptional, the most extraordinary Nawab was Nawab Asif-ud-Daula. He was a man who wanted to rival with Delhi, and he contested with the Mughal Empire. And as a result, he built some fascinating buildings in Awadh. He ruled for about 22 years, from 1775 to 1797. And one of the buildings which he built in Lucknow, which is one of the most popular building in Uttar Pradesh, is the Asafi Imambara. So this is a picture of Asafi Imambara. It was built under very extraordinary circumstances. There was a famine in Lucknow in 1774, and a lot of people had become jobless. There were no crops, and people were hard on cash. Asif-ud-Daula wanted to help his subjects, but he was a very benevolent man. He thought, if I give money to someone, he may be able to get food, but I will be hurting his sentiments. I'll be hurting his ego. So he devised a method of giving employment to his subjects, and at the same time, in return, he would give them some money so that they can buy things of their daily necessities. So he came up with this idea of building this magnificent building called Asafi Imambara. This is a 2-storied building. Imambara is on the ground floor, and on the first floor is Labyrinth, which is known as Bhul Bhulaiya. Imambara is a place of worship. It has been built in memory of Prophet Muhammad's grandson, who had attained martyrdom in 680 AD in Karbala, which is in modern-day Iraq. And during the month of Muharram and Safar, these are the first 2 months in the Islamic calendar, these imambaras become very active. A lot of religious ceremonies take place in these imambaras, and it is open to everyone. So being a ruler, he thought that let me do something which is connected with religion, and at the same time, give something to the city, give something to the state, which would be one of its kind. So Asafi Imambara is a unique building. It's perhaps the only building of its kind in the world. The Bhul Bhulaiya has got 487 identical doors and pathways. So if you ever go to Bhul Bhulaiya, please don't make the mistake of not taking a guide. नहीं तो आप भूल जाइएगा. Bhul Bhulaiya, when Asafi Imambara was being built, I'll tell you briefly, it's a very interesting the laborers used to build the building, the Asafi Imambara, during daytime And on every third night, he would invite the noblemen to break what has been built. So that way he was able to give job not only to the ordinary people, but also to the nobles who had lost money, who had become pauper. The last ruler of Awadh was Nawab Wajid Ali Shah. He was born on 30th July 1822. I think he was a very, very unlucky man. I call him unlucky because he was a man who was much ahead of his time. He should have been born either 200 years earlier or 100 years later. Because he was born at a time when the English East India Company had decided to swallow Indian state, one after the other. And as I said, Awadh was a very, very prosperous state. So naturally, Awadh was top on the hit list. Wajid Ali Shah was a highly secular man. He was interested in fine arts, about which I'll be talking later. He was a man who patronized different forms of art, culture. And he ruled till 1856, before Awadh was annexed by English East India Company. Wajid Ali Shah, when he took over the reins of Awadh, he proved to be a very able administrator. And naturally, this was not liked by the English East India Company. They were looking for a way, they were looking for an excuse to defame him, to annex Awadh. And finally, Awadh was annexed on a false charge of maladministration. And that was the end of Wajid Ali Shah's rule in Awadh. But Wajid Ali Shah was also a very optimistic man. He had heard a lot about British sense of justice and fair play. So he decided to come to Calcutta. Because in those days, the Governor General used to live in Calcutta. And from Lucknow, he went to Kanpur, from Kanpur to Allahabad, Allahabad to Banaras. And it took him 18 days to come from Banaras to Calcutta. In those days, the only mode of transport was by boat. It was a long journey for him. And in Banaras, he was given a reverential goodbye by the Maharaja of Banaras. And on 13th May 1856, Wajid Ali Shah arrived in Calcutta. He arrived in a place called Bichali Ghat in Madhya Bharuch. This ghat is still there, and it has been used as a mode of transport between Bichali Ghat and other parts of the city. It was a hot and humid day, maybe like today. And he was on a steamer called MacLeod. When he got down at Bichali Ghat, he looked around, and I'm sure he must have thought that he's not going to spend the rest of his life in this city. He was very hopeful that if he meets the Governor General and plays his case, Awadh will be returned to him. So from Bichali Ghat, he and his entourage, which comprised about 500 people, they went and stayed in a hotel called Spence Hotel. Don't look for Spence Hotel in Calcutta, because now you'll not find Spence Hotel. This was Asia's, one of the finest hotels in Asia in those days. This hotel was located very close to Raj Bhavan. And many years ago, Spence Hotel was broken down, and an ugly CAG building has come up over there, that red color building. So Wajid Ali Shah stayed in Spence Hotel, and from there he went to meet the Governor General. The Governor General at that time was Lord Canning. Awadh was annexed by Dalhousie, but by the time Wajid Ali Shah arrived in Calcutta, Lord Canning had taken over. Lord Canning had given him a gun salute of 21 guns. That was the highest gun salute given to any native ruler. It was a great form of love and respect within inverted commas, to Wajid Ali Shah. And he was very hopeful that perhaps he's on the right track and Awadh might be given back to him. So he went and met Lord Canning. They had a marathon meeting. And very soon Wajid Ali Shah realized that Lord Canning is over here to look after the interests of English East India Company and British, and not the interests of any Indian native ruler. So he decided to go to England and meet the Queen and place his case before the Queen and British Parliament. But the long journey that he undertook from Lucknow to Kanpur and from there to Allahabad, Banaras, and then finally to Calcutta took a toll on his health. He had rashes on his skin. So his Hakim advised him not to take such a long journey from Calcutta to England. So he decided to send his mother, who was a very strong, powerful woman, Malika Kishwar, his heir apparent, Mirza Hamid Ali, and his younger brother, Sikandar Hashmat. So this group went to England to meet the Queen and place the case before the British Parliament. While negotiations were going on in London between the Awadh party and the Queen and people connected with the British Parliament, the Great Uprising of 1857 took place. I purposely avoid using the word the first revolt. It was not a revolt. I consider it to be the Great Uprising. Revolt होता है जब आप किसी चीज को हासिल करना चाहते हैं. ये तो हम लोगों का था. You can't call it a revolt. Anyway, that's a different discussion. So the Great Uprising of 1857 took place, and the entire attention of the British administration was towards arresting this uprising that took place in India. So all chances of getting back Awadh was lost forever. History, can be at times so cruel, so harsh. Lord Canning, when he welcomed Wajid Ali Shah, he was welcomed with a gun salute of 21 guns. And a year later, the same Lord Canning signed his arrest memo. It has been said that the arrest memo was written in one of the most polite language one can think of. English is a language we speak, but English is not as well spoken by the Indians as it is spoken by the Brits, because it is their language. So the language that was being used in the arrest memo was extremely polite, but at the end of the memo, it meant that Wajid Ali Shah would be arrested. So he was arrested, and this time he was arrested on a false charge that he was trying to take the advantage of the soldiers who were in the British Army, because these soldiers, when they were with Awadh, they lost job after the annexation. So they joined the British Army because you need employment. So if you're a soldier, you have to work for some army. So they joined hands with the British Army, and many of them were stationed in Calcutta. So they came up with this ploy of using this pretext that Wajid Ali Shah is taking advantage of his old soldiers in staging some sort of a rebellion against the English forces. And he was put in Fort William, because Fort William was the citadel of British rule in India for many, many years. So this is the picture of the building, Amherst House, where Wajid Ali Shah was kept for 26 months. And he was kept on the first floor. First floor there was a huge hall, say twice the size of this room, which was his main living room, and there were about 6-7 rooms on the sides. Fortunately, this building is inside Fort William, and it is being looked after by the Indian Army, so it is in very good condition. While Wajid Ali Shah was over here, that was the time when British residency in Lucknow was under siege. And the British realized that if anything happens to Wajid Ali Shah, there might be serious repercussions in Lucknow. So they took very good care of him. And every day, a doctor would come and examine Wajid Ali Shah. His food would come from the royal kitchen in Matia Buruj. And his first wife, Nawab Khas Mahal, who was 5 years older than Wajid Ali Shah. She was called Khas Mahal because she was exceptionally beautiful. And she used to send the food for Wajid Ali Shah. And along with the food, she used to send few strands of her hair every day. That was a symbolical gesture on her part to convey the message that I love you and my love affection is still alive and kicking. Waid Ali Shah was a poet at heart, and he would appreciate this. Along with the food, few strands of his wife's hair is coming, which he would cherish. There's a very interesting story about this Amherst house. A few years ago, I wrote a piece for Telegraph that Waid Ali Shah stayed in this Amherst house for 26 months. And after the story was published, one day GOC called me because, if you write anything about Fort William, you have to take permission from the GOC. And with army, you can't take chances. So I took permission from them before writing the story. So one day GOC called me and he said, आपके वजह से बहुत मुसीबत में हम लोग पड़ गए. So I said, why? He said, ever since this story has come, a lot of people have started approaching me with the request that they want to see Amherst House. And as you know, Fort William is a high security zone. We can't allow everyone. So we don't know what to do. And at times it becomes very impolite to say no. So I told GOC, I said, why don't you say something about the building which will discourage them? So he said, what do you want me to tell them? So I said, tell them that the building is haunted. So he said, are you sure? I said, yes. Tell them the building is haunted. And I'm sure very few people will then show interest. So he said, okay. Then few days later, I remember it was a Sunday morning, he called me and he said, अगर आप फौज में रहते तो हम आपको कोर्ट मार्शल कर देते. So I said, what happened? He said, on your suggestion, I started telling everyone the building is haunted, and now I see the interest has gone up. तो अगर कभी भी आप लोग को मौका मिले एमएस हाउस में जाने के लिए, तो I don't know whether the building is haunted or not, but please go at your own risk. So this went on, and in 1859, on 16th June, by that time, the British had taken the entire country under their control. And they realized that Waid Ali Shah is not a threat to them. And without giving any hint, one fine afternoon, he was being told that now you are a free man. We are releasing you. So he went back to Matya Bruj, and from there, a new story starts. So before going to Matya Bruj, where he finally lived, for a brief period he lived in BNR House. BNR House is also in Matya Bruj. It is the official residence of the General Manager of South Eastern Railway. And a lot of people had lived in this building. Chief Justice of India had lived in this building. And this building, once again, is under South Eastern Railway. Railway is a rich organization. We can see that every year the prices of tickets are going up. So it's a rich body, and they spend a lot on this building, on the upkeep of this building. So this building, once again, it's one of those very few buildings, which is a colonial building and which is in a very good condition. So Waid Ali Shah lived in this building for many years, therefore many months, and finally he shifted to Matya Bruj. While he was staying in this building, he realized that there's an emotional bond between Calcutta and Lucknow. Matya Bruj is on the banks of river Hooghly, and Lucknow is on the banks of river Gomti. Every evening in Lucknow, he would take a boat ride on Gomti. And in Hooghly, it reminded him of his dear Gomti and Lucknow. So somewhere it struck a chord between Lucknow and Calcutta, and he preferred living in Matya Bruj. When he was released, the British gave him an option of settling down anywhere in the country, but he chose Calcutta. And one of the reasons why he chose Calcutta was he thought that if there's any place in India where he'll get a lot of love, respect, affection, it is Bengal. And whenever I get an opportunity, I always mention that whatever Waid Ali Shah thought in 1859 turned out to be so true that even almost 137 years after he passed away, people still talk about Waid Ali Shah. They take an interest in Waid Ali Shah. And the biggest proof is that, this afternoon, so many people have come to hear about Waid Ali Shah and his legacy. we don't know what happens to a person when he dies. But I have a strong feeling that somewhere in the vast universe, those who have left us are able to see us. They may not be able to communicate with us, but they are able to see us and feel what we are doing. So I feel that, wherever Waid Ali Shah must be, if he's able to see us, see the people sitting in this Bharat Chamber of Commerce, he must be smiling that the decision he took in 1859 of settling down in Calcutta in Bengal was correct. So he chose to live in Calcutta, and Matia Bruj became his new adopted home. So one of the first things that he did after he settled down in Matia Bruj was the establishment of an imambara. These Awadh rulers, at one stage, they were very religious and pious people. They were very secular. They were very broad-minded. But at the same time, they were also very, very religious. So he built this Septanabad Imambara in 1864, and this Imambara is still there in Matia Bruj, which was, one of the centerpieces of worship in Matia Bruj. It's a beautiful Imambara. It is the largest Imambara in Calcutta. And fortunately or unfortunately, he's buried in this Imambara. So these are some of the pictures of Imambara. Those of you who have been to Lucknow would see a lot of similarity between this Imambara and the Chota Imambara in Lucknow. Because you see all these chandeliers you find in Chota Imambara in Lucknow as well. And also in Shah Najaf in Lucknow. Wajid Ali Shah was also a man who took a lot of interest in animals. He was an animal lover. Once in a while, when I meet people and they come to know that, I have a connection with Wajid Ali Shah, they tell me कि सबसे अच्छी बात वाजिद अली शाह की जो हमको लगती है कि वो बिरयानी में आलू इंट्रोड्यूस किए हैं. And I tell them that it is not even 1% of his contribution. His contribution is far greater than potato. He was an animal lover, and he built in 1864 what was then, the first world open air zoo. He realized that some animals should be kept in open. They should not be kept in cage. And this zoo was an instant hit. It had many animals, and he spent 25% of his income. He used to get a pension of 12 lakh rupees from the British, and he used to spend 25% of that income on the upkeep and maintenance of animals and zoo. Now I'll be talking about the cultural influences of Wajid Ali Shah. Wajid Ali Shah lived in this city for 31 years, and within a short span of time, he converted Matia Bruj into what was known as Chota Lucknow. When Wajid Ali Shah came to Calcutta, people in Awadh and Lucknow were very optimistic that he'll come back to Lucknow and be with them. But when he decided to live in Calcutta, and the people in Awadh came to know that he's not coming back, a large number of people started coming to Calcutta from different walks of life. Poets, musicians, writers, hakims, common man. And as a result, a new culture developed in Matia Bruj. If I have to explain Matia Bruj to you all, I would say that it is a city within a city. It is a part of Calcutta Police, it is a part of Calcutta Municipal Corporation. But even after so many years, Matia Bruj has got a distinct character, a distinct identity of its own. I remember when I was young and I used to go to Matia Bruj with my father, people used to tell us, "Ke, acha, aap Kolkata se aaye hain?" And I used to ask my father that, why people ask us, "Ke, aap Kolkata se aaye? Isn't Matia Bruj a part of Calcutta?" And then my father would explain to me that, yes, it's a part of Calcutta, but the people over here, since they have a distinct identity in the area, they think that, it is a city within a city. Calcutta mein hai, but, slightly Calcutta se hatke hai. Talking about the cultural influences, I think the biggest contribution of Awadhi legacy in Bengal and Calcutta is the Urdu language. Before Waid Ali Shah came to Calcutta, very few people spoke Urdu in Bengal. The first formal school, college that was set up in Calcutta was Calcutta Madrasa, which was set up in 1781 by Warren Hastings. And then in 1784, William Jones established the Asiatic Society. And then in 1800, Fort William College was set up. By the way, Fort William College was not inside Fort William, it was outside Fort William. And these institutions were set up for the advancement of Indian languages, including Urdu. But the real thrust came 1859 onwards, when hundreds and thousands of people started coming from Awadh and settling down in Madhya Pradesh. They spoke chaste Urdu, and that is how Urdu became very popular in this part of the country. Because of Urdu, a lot of mushaira, ghazal, khawali started taking place. A lot of majlises started taking place. Majlises are religious sermons given in Urdu language. Every second or third person in Madhya Pradesh would consider himself to be a writer or poet. And he or she spoke or tried to speak in the same chaste language as it was spoken in Awadh. As a result, Urdu became very popular. And at one point of time, there were more than 70 newspapers and magazines published from Calcutta. I have the privilege of traveling the length and breadth of this country. And I get even now a bit surprised when, say, a place like Coimbatore, when people ask me, Acha, Calcutta mein Urdu boli jati hai. They think that, in Calcutta, it's only Bengali speaking. But a large section of people in Calcutta speak Urdu. Last year, in December, we were celebrating 100 years of Sahil Ludhianvi, the great poet who wrote a lot of songs for Hindi film. And there were a 3 or 4 day program. A 1 day program was Mushaira, which is a poetic symposium. And the entire auditorium was full. It had about a capacity of more than 2,000 people. So that goes to show that, how popular the language is. Urdu, once again, unfortunately, is a dying language. A lot of people don't take interest in this language as it should be. But even everything said and done, still, I think it is a language which is very much alive in Bengal. Waid Ali Shah wrote about 100 books, and they were published in his private press known as Matwa-e-Sultani. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to point out over here that a man who has lost his kingdom, who knows that, he's not going to get back Awadh. He's living in a place which is 1,000 kilometers away from his capital city of Lucknow, a new foreign land. But he must be a very brave and strong man. Psychologically, he must be very strong. That, he's thinking of creating a new culture, of writing books, of creating a press, of taking on life, and not living a life full of depression and defeat. The other great contribution of Awadhi legacy in Bengal is the fine arts. Waid Ali Shah was a Muslim ruler in medieval India, but he was a great patron of art and culture. He started taking a lot of interest in dance and music. And I'm sure this must not have been liked by the Maulvis and Maulanas of those days. Because according to one interpretation in Islam, music is forbidden. Kathak was a dance which originated in the temples in North India, and then it was being picked up. Waid Ali Shah was a great patron of Kathak, and under his patronage, Kathak rose to great heights. So when he came to Calcutta, he started with the same fervor, and a lot of talented musicians, dancers from places like Agra, Banaras, Lucknow, Allahabad came to Calcutta to perform. The talented artists of that era like Raja Surinder Mohan Tagore of the Paturia Ghat Tagore family, and Pandit Jadu Bhatta were some of the local artists who would perform. And a new culture developed in Calcutta. That was the time when a lot of people had become rich because of the zamindari systems. And these Bengali babus started setting up Jalsa Ghar in their homes, where they would invite these talented artists to perform. The other fallout of this was the establishment of kothas in Calcutta. A lot of kothas were being set up where these artists used to perform mujras. And when I say kothas, I don't mean that it has got anything to do with flesh trade. It had got nothing to do with flesh trade. It was considered to be a discipline of fine arts where people would go, they would sing, they would sit, they would appreciate the song and the dance, and they would come back. In fact, it was a status symbol because these artists had their own hierarchy. So if you're going to artist number 1, it means that you have arrived in life. It's like the membership of Bengal Club. If you're a member of Bengal Club, it means that you are an important person in Calcutta. So if you go to a particular artist to hear mujra, it means that you have arrived in life. You are very important. And because of this great patronage, there were hundreds and hundreds of people who were attracted towards this trade. Dancers, musicians, choreographers, people who would play different instruments. And the biggest benefit was when around 1940, when the film industry in our country took off, a lot of these artists went to Bombay from Calcutta and Bengal. Those of you who love to watch old Hindi films, if you watch, next time when you watch, you find a lot of Bengali names. Because in those days, a lot of these talented artists were from this part of the country. There's this very famous song, which is attributed to Waid Ali Shah, Babul Mora Nahiyar Chuto Hai, and this was being popularized by Kundan Lal Sehgal in the film Street Singer. The other influence which Waid Ali Shah had was pigeon flying. Pigeon flying was a sport which was very popular in Awadh. People would spend a lot of money in rearing pigeons, and they would also spend a lot of time, energy, money in crossbreeding. That gives me some time to have water. Pigeons have a terrific sense of geography. If you release a pigeon which has been kept and reared in this building, and you go and release it in, say, Newtown, after a day or two, the pigeon would come back over here. And those, who keep pigeons in their house as pet, they would know that, what a strong sense of geography they have. So pigeon flying was very common in Awadh. So when he came to Calcutta and, the people living in Matia Bruj, they started keeping pigeons, and very soon it became a royal sport. Interestingly, at one point of time, we had about 20,000 Chinese living in Calcutta. And I don't know why, these Chinese loved pigeon rearing. And every year competition used to be held. And the first, second, and third prizes were being won by these Chinese. They were able to crossbreed some of the finest pigeons. The other royal pastime of Awadh was kite flying, which was introduced in Matia Bruj. And kites were introduced in India by the Chinese. It was considered to be a very, very ancient form of sport. How it came to India is not very clear, but it was a royal pastime in Awadh, and even the local people used to fly kites. So when Waid Ali Shah came to Calcutta, people started flying kites in Matia Bruj. And today, this kite flying is an important cottage industry in Matia Bruj. I find a lot of distinguished women sitting over here, and I would like to share with them. They would be very happy to hear that most of the kites that are made in Madhya Bruj are made by women. Because in order to make a kite, number one, you don't require a lot of capital, neither do you require a lot of technical know-how. The operation is very simple. If someone teaches you for half an hour, you'll be able to understand. And there are about 3,000 families which are connected with this cottage industry. The biggest kite flying tournament, if you were to call it, takes place in Gujarat on the day of Makar Sankranti. And most of the kites that are flown in Gujarat on the day of Makar Sankranti are sourced from Calcutta. The strings that are used in making kite come from Assam. And I showed you a picture of Bichali Ghat. So next time if you go to Bichali Ghat, you'll find a lot of, huge bamboos are being kept at the side of the river. So these come by the river route from Assam to Bengal, and they are allowed to be kept in underwater for some time for curing. And then these bamboos are used for making kites. And these kites are sent to different parts of the country, particularly to Gujarat. So next time, if you see kites flowing in the sky of Gujarat, so be happy that, it has been sourced from Calcutta, our very own Madhya Bruj. Because about 3,000 families are dependent on kite making, it gives a great economic fill-up to these women. Madhya Bruj is not a very advanced area. There are not too many industrial or commercial units. But by making kites, these women are able to make some money to run their houses. Waheed Ali Shah was a very stylish man. The most popular picture of Waheed Ali Shah is a picture in which his left chest is open. I would like to ask any one of you why his left chest is open. Can anyone take a guess? Those who have, heard my talk before, please don't answer. Anyone would like to try why his left chest is open? Why a ruler would open his left chest? It's one of the most popular pictures of Waheed Ali Shah. Rajendra Bhai, please make a guess. Sorry?
He's talking about Shatranj Ke Khiladi, the movie made by...
Shatranj Ke Khiladi was made by Satyajit Ray. No. I said, why one of the most popular pictures of Waheed Ali Shah is a picture in which his left chest is open. So why he would open his left chest? That is my question. Sorry?
That was like that.
Heart. Huh?
You mean to say that was like that?
Yes. So why? So my question is that why it was like that? Why it was like that? Waheed Ali Shah was a poet. Sir, you are almost close. He was a poet at heart. And it was a symbolical gesture on his part. He wanted to convey to the world. In Urdu, we say that, mera dil khula hua hai. Of course, heart has got nothing to do with brain. We think with our brains. But that is the common perception that, you feel happy. Dil khush ho gaya. But actually, it's all in the brain. So he wanted to convey to the public at large that, my heart is open. And as a writer, as a poet, as a ruler, I see, I feel, and I observe everything, and everything goes over here in my heart. And then I take a decision. Because if you want to be a good writer, a poet, a ruler, anything, you have to take into consideration different aspects. So he was a very stylish man. So when he came to Calcutta, he came with his set of tailors. And when people started coming from Awadh and settling down in Madhya Bruj, a lot of tailors came. And when they came, they started stitching the same clothes which were being used in Awadh. So dresses like sharara, gharara, churidar, sherwani, kurta pajama became very popular in this part of the city. And over a period of time, this tribe of tailors and people associated with the tailoring industry, it became very big. And today, Madhya Bruj produces a lot of garments, unbranded garments, mostly unbranded garments, to the tune of 15,000 crore annually. So you can understand the volume of business it generates. And everything is available over there. The cloths come there from different parts of the country. The accessories come from different parts of the country. It is being sold in bulk. Twice a week, they have what is known as Haat. People from different regions, they come over there and they buy in bulk. So it's a very busy day in Madhya Pradesh on those 2 days. And some of the tailors over there are the finest in the country. I'm repeating, some of the tailors over there are the finest in the countries. So next time, if any one of you buy an outfit from Sabyasachi or Ritu Kumar, it is quite possible that it must have been sourced in Madhya Pradesh. Unfortunately, the tailor who has made that outfit doesn't even get 1,000 of what Sabyasachi would charge. Of course, the other influence was the Awadhi cuisine. It was much more than biryani. It was much more than aloo in the biryani. And when Waid Ali Shah came to Calcutta, he came with his own sets of chefs who would cook for him, who would cook for his nobles, for his family, for his friends. And then slowly, more and more people started coming to Calcutta, Madhya Pradesh, and Bengal from Awadh. And this tribe of Borchis also came, who cooked the Awadhi food. And Awadhi cuisine became very popular. So this is a picture of Calcutta biryani with potato that I'll talk later. Then this is shirmal. This is nargasi kofta. This is shami kebab. This is one of my very common questions I asked. Why shami kebab is called shami kebab? Now, those who have attended my talks earlier, please don't answer. Let's hear from some women why shami kebab is called shami kebab. Evening. Okay, that's an intelligent guess, but that's not the correct answer. Anyone? Yeah, guess to kariye. Koi औरत guess करे. I'm sure many of you all must be liking shami kebabs. No, Sham. Anyone, let's see. Believe that was a good guess. You know, when Awadh was at its peak, people used to come from different parts of the world. And in those days, a lot of soldiers came from Sham. Sham is the Arabic name for Syria. And even today, if you hear the Al Jazeera news in Arabic, they refer to Syria as Sham. So these people came from Syria and they were part of the Awadh forces. And you know, when you go from place A to B, you carry a lot of baggage with you. Your tradition, your culture, your cuisine. And these people, when they came from Syria, they started cooking their style of meat, which was quite different from what was being cooked in Awadh generally. And somehow, you know, it caught the imagination of the local population and people started liking this kebab. So in order to distinguish this from other forms of kebab that were available in those days, they referred to it as shami kebab. So it has got a very strong connection with Syria. One of the most important contribution of this Awadhi cuisine is that, you know, it has become very popular. And from Darjeeling to Diamond Harbour and from, you know, east to west, everywhere you go, you know, you find different types of biryani. Biryani are being sold for 1,500 rupees a plate, and it is also being sold for 150 rupees. I don't know what they give in 150 rupees. One of the common misconception about biryani is, the Calcutta biryani is that, you know, Waid Ali Shah fell on bad days, and that is why the Calcutta biryani has got potatoes. But this is not true. Waid Ali Shah and the other rulers of Awadh, they were great connoisseurs of food. They had given a clean hand to their chefs to try and experiment new dishes, to make the existing dishes more delicious, to make it more tasty. And the chefs used to try various permutation and combinations. Portuguese had a very strong presence in 16th, 17th century all over the world. They had cultivated a lot of vegetables in our country, and one of them was potato. It was first cultivated in Surat, And then it spread to different parts of the country. It was being brought to Bengal by the English traders. And in those days, potato was considered to be something very exotic and something very expensive because it was in short supply. It was not a common vegetable as it is now. And in one of the experiments, one of the chefs added potato. And when you cook biryani, it is being cooked in the dampuk style, where the pot is being sealed with the lid, with the dough. So the vapors don't escape. So everything stays inside the pot. As a result, the fragrance, aroma of meat, rice, saffron, everything got absorbed in the potato. And when it was being served to him, he liked it. And he said, next time, when you all make biryani, make sure that you all add potato. And it was being served to his nobles, it was served to his friends, to his family members, and slowly it became a hit. Potatoes in those days was perhaps more expensive than mutton. Wais Ali Shah used to get a pension of 12 lakh rupees every year, and out of that 25% he would spend on animals. So a person who would spend 25% of his annual income on animals can certainly afford meat in his meal. So this misconception of, he fell on bad days, it is one of those propagandas. And I don't know who started this propaganda. This is another very common dish, which is called Shahi Tukra, which is a part of Awadhi cuisine. And I always say that history cannot forget that Calcutta gave refuge to an unlucky ruler and in return got the legacy of one of our finest cultures. Even after so many decades, many of us in Bengal fondly remember Awadh's last ruler. That says it all. And I end this with one of my favorite couplets in Urdu, which says that मेरे जाने के बाद महफिल में अफसाने बयां होंगे, बहारें हमको ढूंढेंगी और ना जाने हम कहां होंगे. ठीक है. Thank you very much. Hope to see you next time. If there is any question, yes. The fourth ruler of Awadh, Nawab Asif-ud-Daula, the man who built Asifi Imambara, was very fond of meat, but he had some serious dental problem. So at a certain age, he couldn't chew. So he called his chef and said that, I want to eat meat, but can you make meat very soft so that, I don't have to chew much? And that is how, the chefs devised a type of meal which would be very soft. And that is why, this particular term is used, galavati, which means that, melt.
I have one question to make, sir.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for such an amazing talk. I would really like to thank the Ladies Forum of Bharat Chamber for organizing this talk. Now, I am an avid reader of Urdu literature. Myself, I am the Vice Chancellor of Baba Saheb Ambedkar Education.
Oh, how nice.
And the question is that he also introduced about what's the Shah, Thumris and Kavalis. Could you just
He didn't introduce Qawwali because Qawwali was very popular in mazars, because it is being sung with a lot of passion and energy, and that is basically to unite the public. But he introduced Thumri, and he was a great patron, and he used to think that music can be a great leveler. Being a Muslim ruler, taking interest in Thumri and Kathak, despite the fact that I'm sure a lot of Muslim Maulvis and Maulana would not have liked it. But, he did what his heart wanted to do. So, that goes to show that he must be a very, very brave man, because, he didn't bother what the society will think about it. And even in Calcutta, when he came, he had said the Jalsa Ghar, which was also in BNR House, where people used to come from places like Agra, Banaras, Allahabad, which were cradle of fine arts. They would come and perform over here, and they were being rewarded greatly. So he was a great patron of fine arts.
It's a very good to visualize about how he looked immediately, the Satyajit Ray's, Shatranj ke Khilari, the one who played the role of
Amjad Khan.
Amjad Khan, that face comes in our mind. But actually, how he looked. I mean, if you could just, I mean, every time I start thinking, I have seen that movie, almost, 20 to 25 times.
20, 25 times.
Yeah. But anyway.
No, but I just want to share a very interesting anecdote. When Satyajit Ray was making Shatranj Ke Khilari, Satyajit Ray didn't know Urdu. But Satyajit Ray was a great director.
It was based on Premchand's short
Yes,
story.
yes. So he learned Urdu. He learned for 6 months. And by the time the movie had started, he picked up a decent knowledge of Urdu. The film had almost got stalled because first Sanjeev Kumar suffered a heart attack, who played a very important role in the film. And later on, Amjad Khan had a serious car accident. So at one point of time, Satyajit Ray thought that, it's going to be a very unlucky venture for him. And so he decided not to go ahead with the film. But then, both recovered and then, they made this film. And today it is considered to be perhaps the only Urdu film made by Satyajit Ray. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, please.
So, having heard this brilliant discourse, I was getting a memory back of the school days. There was a piece in Bengali prose. The most German sentence was, according to Wazid Ali, সেই tradition সমানে চলেছে. Tradition continues. Again, I'm getting a feel of remembering one Urdu sher. बिताया जिंदगी एक सिर्फ यही जानने को लिए कि मैं कुछ नहीं जानता हूँ.
Correct.
Having heard the inputs that you have provided and living in this city and working in Asiatic Society as the General Secretary, I discover my ignorance once for all again. But I invite you, please visit us one day. We'll spend some time with you.
Sure.
And we'll look for, if by any chance there is some treasure of knowledge, because it is the ancient seat of learning. And we have 50,000 almost Pothis, manuscripts in very many languages, scripts of very many countries. Now we look for certain thing. If we can get through the Urdu manuscripts some such treasures of knowledge, treasures of knowledge. So we will love to have you here, there.
I will certainly go, provided you assure me it's not haunted.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Situation or the importance invaders, Britishers also and the Bengal because various rulers around India. What is it that the British succeed without having the Bengal? Do you have any record of that?
How did the British succeed without having?
The Britishers didn't have the Bengal. It's the Indians who fought them. So what is the political situation there? Do you have any recorded some history related in your family?
My friend, the British Deputy High Commissioner sitting over here, I don't want to use that word, but that is the word I usually use. They were shrewd administrators. They not only ruled over India, but they ruled over, different parts of the world. They knew how to rule. And they took advantage of various things. They could capitalize on people's deficiencies. And that is what they did in our country. At different point of time, they employed a different thing, whether it be Hindu, Muslim, whether it's language, whether it's a different class, whether it is, bribing the people. They use different things.
Sir, how much will be 12 lakhs rupees in today's, what time you used to get worth today? It should be an astonishing figure. Maybe 40-50,000 crores. I really don't.
Kafi hoga. With inflation, kafi hoga.
12 lakhs rupees a year. astonishing sum.
Almost 1 lakh per month.
What 1 lakh per month? It means thousands and thousands crores. In today's value, it must be thousands and thousands of crores, maybe 40, 50,000 crore a year.
Sir, I would.
So, did other Nawabs were also paid some pension, or he only got the pension?
They were paid, but he was the highest paid pensioner in India.
Any pension to you, sir?
My father used to get.
Father used to get. Okay.
Sir, I would like to share one information with
Yes,
you.
yes,
You were saying that Urdu is not taught. Almost somebody asked you that whether Urdu is taught in Calcutta or not. Almost in every college and in universities, there are Urdu departments.
Yes, I know,
And
I know,
Calcutta
I know.
University, yes.
I
So
know, I
Urdu is done. There is Urdu Academy also.
I know.
Yeah.
So we have to close now. We have to close.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Mirza, Mr. Khaitan, Mrs. Shah, members of the committee, members of the Ladies Forum, guests and friends. It is my most pleasant duty to move a hearty vote of thanks to our guest-in-chief, Mr. Shahanshah Mirza, great-great-grandson of Nawab Wajid Ali Shah, the last ruler of Awadh, for his enlightening talk on the Awadhi influence on West Bengal. Thank you, Mr. Mirza, for sparing some of your valuable time and sharing your thoughts with us. Sir, it was indeed a great pleasure to learn from you about the legend of Nawab Wajid Ali Shah and how Bengal benefited from the cultural connect from that era. Although the Nawab lived here only 31 years from 1856 to 87, his final years in exile, he is fondly remembered in Kolkata even after more than 135 years of his passing. My thanks are due to the members and guests for attending today's talk. With these words, I request you all to join me in carrying a hearty vote of thanks to Mr. Shahanshah Mirza with an appreciative acclamation.